And good afternoon. It is Thursday, March 5th, just after 12 p.m. And would you look at this, Mr. Frank Prosnitz? It's back-to-back days. It's almost like it's election season. Yes.
Yeah.
Yesterday, we were joined by Newport School Superintendent Colleen Burns-Germain. If you want to catch any of that, great interview. Despite what some of our critics say, it wasn't just all softballs and ice cream parties. You can listen to that full conversation at whatsupnoop.com, as well as it's a story, as well as it's audio. I got to do the audio still. And today, back by popular demand, it's been a while. I guess it's been since probably the last election. But Representative Lauren Carson.
Didn't I do something with you, Frank? I think maybe. I don't remember.
Oh, yeah, Frank. Probably on WBLQ.
Oh, yeah. Yep. And I think I might have turned that around, actually, for What's Up Noop as well.
Representative Lauren Carson joins us, represents Newport, and I saw over the last couple of weeks, what is it? It's March now, last couple of months, that you did a constituent survey that you do every year. I think you've done it just about every single year since you've been in office. And there was a pretty big response this year, and we thought we'd get together and kind of flush through what you're hearing from constituents in Newport.
Yeah, well, I'm thrilled to do this. Thank you both. As I said to Ryan, people were asking me how they could learn about the results. And I thought, geez, it's going to be a really big press release. I don't think, and I got the idea to call you. So I said, maybe they'll do this here. And I'm sure people are going to watch it. I really am, because there was interest. I did have a constituent meeting Monday night. I usually run the questionnaire, the survey, and then have a meeting about a week or two later. And it was attended very well, and it was a lively discussion as usual. But I want to reach out to people that couldn't be there. So thank you for doing this.
I read through the survey. I thought it was terrific. The questions were great. Just a real quick question. How many other legislators do this?
I really don't know, to tell you the truth. I'm going to guess not a whole lot, to tell you the truth. I should tell you that Senate President Lawson did this. In fact, I saw her survey around the beginning of January, and I even stole a few of her questions. So I somewhere I saw that she did it, so that's one person I know that did it. But I've got it pretty rolled up now. I do it every year. I pull up last year's questions around the beginning of December. I add some more questions that are more relevant to the day. I get it out on my mailing list, get it out to you guys, put it on SurveyMonkey. It sort of runs itself now.
It would be interesting to compare the results of your survey with anybody else who did that, to see if Rhode Islanders in general are thinking the same way.
Yeah, I don't really know. None of my very close allies do it. I sent it to them. They asked to see it, but I think it's very important. I mean, it really gets my thinking in front of my questions in front of the minds and the eyes of constituents. It gives them an opportunity to respond. This year was really I wouldn't say a bigger response, but a more enthusiastic response. But that's why I'm doing this with you, because there was clearly more enthusiasm for it.
I was going to ask what your response was like compared to the last couple of years.
Well, I had 157 responses this year, so it was statistically significant. I always aim for that 100. And last year we've been well over 100 the last few years, so we've always been significant, statistically significant. But again, I just found that people were actually sending me emails and calling me up and asking me, how can I get the results? That was sort of a new phenomenon.
Was there anything in particular that surprised you in the answers?
Yes, I was surprised. Well, let's first talk about who answered, right? Traditionally, it's people over 60. I do ask the age. I do ask the party affiliation, and it was split between a Democrat and independent, with a slight sliver of independence. I asked folks how long they lived in Newport, and 11 or plus years was the greatest answer. So there were people. The one thing I didn't look at was men and women. And they do live in Newport. Sometimes people that don't live in the district answer it, and I try to discourage that. So some people didn't live in the district. I thought I had asked about their male or female, but maybe I didn't do that. So anyway, I just wanted to say who it was. So it's older people living a long time.
You had mentioned a sliver of independents. You meant a sliver of Republicans.
You're correct. Yeah, that's absolutely right. It was Republican, it was Democrat and independent with the sliver of Republicans. So it was pretty equal between Democrats and independents. It was people over 60 who had lived here a long time. That's basically who we saw answering the question. So did anything stand out to me? Well, one thing that stood out was they generally support this idea of a millionaire's tax, which is being tossed around by the gubernatorial candidates. McKee put it in his budget. I think it was heard 2 nights ago in House Finance. I don't know what the response was. I think it was. I'm not 100% sure. I think it was heard there because it's in the budget. I was surprised that there was such an overwhelming support of that. I asked, how they felt about the fact replacing the Medicaid and food stamp benefits that had been lost in the federal budget last year, and people supported that. There was another, again, not necessarily an overwhelming support for that, but they basically thought that they were important. And so I thought, this is kind of interesting, that they're following. And I'm gonna try to see if I can find the exact answers on that. I got a page through this thing here. It's a bunch of pages. Maybe it's in the beginning. But yeah, so those were some of the things that I thought were kind of interesting.
I printed this
Also,
out, so
one more thing, Frank. I asked them to rate their quality of life, and between excellent and good, it was like about 85% of the people that answered. So people feel pretty good about living in Newport.
I'm going to help both of you out by doing this, and let's see if I can do this.
I'm going to put the results up.
I believe I am.
Oh, great! That's super.
And we're doing this on the fly, folks. But you were just talking about the quality of life.
Yeah, right there.
Yeah. So
pretty high. People are feeling they're at least feeling very good about it. 50% of the people are feeling good about it. So that's great.
Yeah. So while you guys talk about it, I can search through and pull it up, and maybe that will help out a little bit.
Sure.
Lauren, can we jump to healthcare for a moment?
Sure. That was pretty much right in the beginning, I think, the healthcare stuff.
Yeah, and I thought that was quite interesting because we talk about actually the latest things I've seen. Medicare did a study of the hospitals in Rhode Island, as well as Leapfrog, and Newport Hospital comes up pretty high.
Yes, it
in
does.
Terms of other hospitals in the state. But one thing that I thought was a question, I guess, I wondered about in terms of improving primary care in the state is you didn't ask the question about a medical school at the University of
No,
Rhode
I did not. I did not. When they looked at I think it's the question before this, actually, Ryan, the one that's which healthcare services. No, that's not it. I don't. It's question 6. Okay, question 6. That'll help here. That'll help. So when I ask, which services are most important to you, the ones that came up, and we asked them to rank them. So we had local hospitals, and then more incentives for primary care doctors, and then more senior care assisted living facilities. But of course, look at the age of the people that were responding to this. So they picked that, which makes perfect sense. So I think they're spot on. I think my constituents that answered this are really spot on with what actually is going on in the state. It was very interesting.
I found interesting the next question. Are you currently having trouble finding a primary care doctor in Rhode Island? I thought that number would be higher.
So did I. So did I.
Slightly under 16%.
I thought so too. I agree with you on that. Well, then they also said, no, I eventually found one. And I think the most important thing is, no, I have a reliable primary care. So that was strong too. So it's not quite as bad as maybe we thought it was. Although that doesn't mean it couldn't get worse, because it is a problem. Primary care physicians in the state are definitely a problem. You know that as well as I do.
Is the legislature at all looking at increasing Medicaid payments for?
I don't think we're there yet. I think that this year's budget is going to be a super challenge. I want to put it in context for you, right? So we get a spring break. This is how I've been explaining to a lot of people. We get a winter and a spring break. Our winter break was 2 weeks ago. And our spring break this year is late. It's between the 17th and it's between the 20th and the 24th of April. Usually it's about a week or 2 weeks earlier than that. So that means that we're going to come back to the chamber on about 28, like around the 28th or 29th of April, right? And we're going to roll immediately into budget. It's going to be like a flip of a switch. And it's going to be, and because it's an election year, a lot of my colleagues, they'd like to get out early. For me, I feel like I'm working there. I got to stay as long as it takes. But a lot of people that have elections or they have races, they want to get out. They want to start hitting the streets. And I understand that. Okay. So in the meantime, when we come back on May 1st, it's going to be like boom, right? And that's when the budget's going to hit. And that's when all these issues are going to hit really hard. The healthcare funding, the energy proposals that are in the governor's budget, this millionaire's tax, replacing the Medicaid and the SNAP benefits to whatever extent we can do that, the bond questions. I mean, these are going to be really big questions this year. And it's an election year. The governor's running. He has his interest in the way he's put the budget forward. It's going to get really complicated in the month of May. So I don't think we have any opinions yet. I don't think there's any, not that I'm part of. I think they're probably being discussed. They're probably being reviewed. But I don't think there's anything on Medicaid. And while I'm on that Medicaid stuff spills over to the birthing center because Brown Health wants Medicaid money, right? That's what they tell me. And so to whatever extent, they get Medicaid money could have an impact on their ability to keep the birthing center open, which I'm hoping it doesn't, but that's part of a longer discussion. So, yeah. And people do want to keep the birthing center open. I cannot tell you how many people want to keep the birthing center open. I mean, I go to the Y and people want to get on our mailing list for our newsletter. I should probably put you on the mailing list, Ryan. We do have a newsletter.
That'd be helpful. And here is the question about the birthing center. See, 54% say it's very important. Another 27% say it's important. So that's by far the majority.
Yeah, by far. I cannot tell you how many people actually stop me and say, "What's up with the birthing center?" Yesterday, 2 people. I was in an attorney's office for something, and they were like, "What's going on with the birthing center?" And then I went to the gym, and people saying, "What's going on with the birthing center?" So what we did was we have a coalition of folks working on keeping the birthing center open, and we meet every Monday night, and it includes a whole variety of folks, and we have a newsletter going out about every week, 10 days to 14 days. I have several pieces of legislation that I've introduced that don't necessarily require it to stay open because we can't do that, but it does really lay out a very aggressive policy for reviewing whether or not we will decide to close it. So anyway, I think you're going to see more. The bills haven't been heard yet, so there'll be some press in the coming weeks on that. We have a lobby day scheduled for April 9th. At the State House, and I think there's some other activities planned. So there's much more coming on, and we have street signs. We got these street signs made, and we're going to start seeing them around town. We have 200 of them to get onto people's lawns. So that's going to be an exciting campaign over the next 8 to 10 weeks.
Rep. Carson, I'm wondering, when we were talking about healthcare earlier, we all were kind of surprised that people have a doctor, they're not having a hard time finding a doctor. I wonder what other surprises there were in the survey results that kind of go against everything that we're hearing in the echo chamber we all live in. Obviously that was a surprise. What were some of the other surprises that isn't going along with the messaging out there?
I don't know. I don't know how to quite answer that one. Let me go through this a little bit. We did the big beautiful bill one. We did that. I added a lot of questions on flooding and resilience, and people were interested and they kind of start around question 14-ish, yeah. And so people have experienced flooding. I mean, I have a long-term interest in trying to figure out how to make us more resilient and work on that as recently as today. I also noticed that they want investments. Which investments would you support? I mean, that was kind of interesting too. They would support stormwater drainage upgrades and renewable energy incentives for climate resilience. I think that goes against what we hear because everybody blames green energy for high utility bills. But when I ask them they're willing to make investments in renewable energy. They see the connection between that and climate change. They're also obviously very interested in the harbor. You have that down there. And then they wanted resilient supported tourism activities. They want the tourism community to be more participatory in the resilience and the environmental soundness of the community. So I thought that these answers were very interesting from this group of people. I got to tell you, I agree with them.
One of the areas that I found to be interesting and almost disturbing was question 16. If you own your home, is it currently protected against flooding or storm impacts?
Yes. Yes.
And the number of people who didn't know.
Yes.
22.15% were unsure. And what is it, 30.87% somewhat, and only 20.81% said that their homes were protected. You would think that people.
I'd love to spend a minute talking about that. I'd love to spend a minute talking about that. I have tried, and I put a bill in. I've been for years working on the idea of a flood audit program, and that's why I put that in there. And I had a task force created by REMA, the Emergency Management in Rhode Island, and the Department of Environmental Management, and they did that about 8 years ago for me, and they drafted an entire property flood audit program that resembles the RISE energy audit program, right? So you know what the RISE energy audit program is. You make an appointment, they come out, they look at your energy resilience, they do an assessment of your energy usage, and then they make recommendations as to how you can make your house more energy efficient, and then you're capable of getting some of those resources. Some of that is funded by utility bills, so some of the stuff on utility bills is actually a really good thing. So anyway, I thought, well, why don't we have like a flood audit program that's sort of run the same way, where I proposed, and it was just a proposal, I proposed to put a $25 surcharge on homeowner policies across the state and build up a fund. And then after several years, there would have been a bulk of money in that fund, and homeowners and business owners, not just homeowners that are in the coastal zone, they could have an audit done on their property. And if, there would have to be some kind of a copay, because obviously if you're assessing the Marriott in Newport and a house on Washington Street in Newport, that's a different job. So there was, accommodations made for the size of the property. And I thought that we could give property owners information. That was why I put this here, to see to what extent people might really like this. And, they might like it. They come out to your house, they spend an hour. I don't necessarily think it would be an engineer, but you could send somebody, train the staff, and if you're in the floodplain, and they come out to your house with a clipboard, and they look at your pavement, they look at your landscaping around your property, they look at where your utilities are, and they give you some, whether you're in the flood zone and how you might be impacted by what kinds of storms, and then give the homeowners that information, or business owners. For me, there's all the businesses along Thames Street that are in the flood zone, and then they could make appropriate investments in their property. It's an idea that I've been toying with for many years. I put the bill in last year. It didn't go anywhere because it's kind of a novel idea. I'm hoping that I can do it again this year. I'm getting a little sidetracked on a few issues this year, but I'm hoping to put it in again.
I went through the RISE program at my house, and it's a terrific program.
Yeah, I think the people that live at the Point in Newport or off Wellington Street in Newport would love to have somebody come out with a clipboard and spend 2 hours with them and say, okay, if we get a Category 4 hurricane, the water will come up this high, and then you need to do A, B, and C to protect your basement. I mean, that's good information. And this question actually proved that there's a little bit of an appetite for that.
Well, that's great. Your first question is to what are the top issues that people see. Did that surprise you at all? Number one was
no, they're right into the rest of the state. I think cost of living and housing, healthcare accessibility, and utility. I mean, it's the affordability questions. That's basically what they.
Environmental protection came out pretty high as well.
Which one?
Environmental.
No, Newport is very strong environmentally. There's no doubt about that. Look where we live. We have water on 3 sides, and we want to keep it clean. And we understand. We're frustrated with plastic waste. We're upset about sea rise. I think, I'm a very strong environmentalist, as you guys know. And I think I know that I'm in tune with my constituents on that stuff. I know that.
one of the things I think in here, when you take a look at the age of the people who responded, not surprising that there was not a lot of activity relative to childcare costs,
Right.
to,
That's right.
public education. And
That's
that's I
right.
think more about the age of the respondent than about the importance of those issues.
I 2 years ago, there was a woman that came to it's usually filled out by older constituents. And about 2 years ago, a woman came to my meeting and she said, "Gee, these are all older people, And I said that I she said, "It's still older people." I remembered her. And I said, "You're right, And I made a promise to her that night that I would do outreach to younger voters. And so in the fall, that fall, so I guess it was 2 years ago, in that fall, a year ago, November, I did a specific mailing to voters under 30. And, I tried to, I'm really, the older I get, the more important it is for me to see younger people involved. And so I promised this woman that I would do that. And I did it. And I did a mailing to voters under 30. And it wasn't really a campaign piece for myself. It was more a piece encouraging them to vote and encouraging them to get involved in the voting process. And then, then I did this, and I didn't really do a lot of outreach to younger folks. And when I saw the results again, I said, "Oh, there we are." I'm not real sure how to reach them, but it is something that I should probably take more seriously at any future one. Maybe go through the schools, and figure out a way to get to people. But I would like to hear from younger folks. You're right about that.
I was also looking at the question number 5. Which housing policies do you think the legislature should pursue? Number 1 on that was property tax stability for long-term residents. Number 2 was limits or oversight on short-term rentals, which I know is
we can talk about that.
Area for you. Third was senior and aging in place support, home care investments. And then with also affordable housing development and property tax relief fairly high on that list. Any surprises there?
No. Personally, let's stay on short-term rentals for a while. I know that you guys know I worked on that. I've had a study commission on short-term rentals for 2 years, maybe even 3 now. And the way study commissions work is they have a beginning and an end with specific members assigned to it who have expertise, and you review specific questions. And it's all laid out in the resolution that creates the study commission. And we researched a variety of things. In fact, Zai was on it from Newport. I specifically assigned somebody from Newport on it. And Zai attended almost all the meetings. And we looked at municipal, we looked at building codes, we looked at zoning codes, we looked at insurance costs, we looked at taxes, we looked at a whole range of things. But what has happened is that municipalities, simultaneous to this work, municipalities have been passing their own ordinances. So what we have now is a hybrid mix of municipal ordinances. In fact, down in Westerly, where in your neck of the woods down there, Frank, where you lived or used to live, they're looking at an ordinance. I've been talking to them, and Newport's doing another ordinance, and Tiverton's wanting to see. And each municipality sort of does its own thing, and they should. They're entitled to do that. But the net effect is that we have this mix of things that don't necessarily synchronize with each other. And so how do you design a state policy? The second and the most important thing is that there's been a lawsuit in Narragansett for the past year and a half. And that is absolutely stalled in the courts. I just asked the attorney that works for me just Tuesday, what's the status of the Narragansett lawsuit? And he said, nothing. There's also a lawsuit in the Supreme Court for Newport. And that's stalled also. But the one in Narragansett is a little bit more significant because one of the issues to be decided in that lawsuit is who has authority over short-term rental policy. Is it the state or municipalities? And so we're not going to pass anything until that decision is made. And so my study commission has been stalled. I am meeting next week. I decided to resurrect it and get back on the horse. And we're going to look next week at what's going on in municipalities. We're going to start the conversation again. Quite frankly, I feel really badly. People were hoping that my commission would be able to do things, but we got stalled by the courts, and that's the reason. And, there's nothing I can do about it. The legislature is not inclined to pass laws if there's something pending in court, particularly in a Rhode Island court, that may affect the impact of the way that law gets implemented. And I get that. So anyway, I think that the short-term rental stuff in the state is a little quieter. I think that some of these municipal ordinances have sort of dampened the I'll call excitement about them in a neutral way. But it's clearly an issue. I did put in a bill this year, which I think is going to be met with hasn't been heard yet, and I think is going to be met with very, very controversial responses. My sense is that if you live in a house and you rent 2 rooms in your house and you live in that house and you vote in that house, that's zone residential. If you live in Cranston and own 3 houses on Lower Thames Street, you vote in Cranston and that's where your lifestyle is, and you do not live on Lower Thames Street, those are commercial pieces of property. I don't know, it seems to me that if you don't live there, it's not residential. And so I would like to see them zone commercial. And the bill hasn't been heard yet. I'm sure I'm going to get a lot of pushback on that. But I think that it's time to really look at the true nature of this industry. These are businesses. I'm okay with that. You want to run a business? Run a business. Then you got to follow the rules of businesses. If you live in the property, it is clearly residential. So anyway, that's the short of short-term rentals. What other stuff? I think that what other stuff was on here? There's limits on short-term rentals, property tax stability.
Well, I got a big one at 22 here. And Frank briefly touched on it about education.
Oh, yeah, that's pretty big.
Yeah.
That's pretty big.
So, it talks about potential proposed unification of Newport's public schools district with Middletown. And let's see here. We got 75% who support. Yeah.
Right.
From a state level, we had the superintendent on yesterday, and I know there is a process. So you're an important part of the process, because in order for this to actually ever make a ballot, it has to kind of go through. Well, it has to go through the State House, not kind of.
Right.
Where are we now from your point of view?
Well, just to clarify for the viewers, if Newport and Middletown consider or decide to put a question on the ballot, or any municipality, that has to be verified and passed by the state legislature. So Newport and Middletown would have to draft the question language, the referendum language. It would have to be identical. That's really important. And they would have, and they would have to say that, this, and the town council and city councils would have to pass a resolution to ask us to put that question on the ballot, right? And then we would take it to the legislature, and in the House, it would go through the state government committee, and then we would vote on it. And chances are it would pass right away, because anytime there's a municipal issue with a resolution from the governing body in that municipality, it really passes without any controversy. So there's that. So that's how the process works. I think I asked Councilwoman Smythe about a week ago. I saw her and said, "What's up? Are we getting a question?" Because if they want to put a question on the ballot in November, they got to get it to us so we can get it, give them approval, right? And I haven't gotten anything from the city council on that yet. I don't see it on their agenda. I know that I follow it. I don't follow it super intensely, but I do follow it. It seems as though they've created these committees that are looking into this, the 2 committees in each of the municipalities. I think I read that they were going to report back to the councils like mid-May, which I said, that's kind of a tight timeline, because I just explained to you guys that the month of May is going to be really wild, and we're going to have the budget, and we're probably going to end somewhere in the vicinity of about June 10th to June 15th. So, passing a resolution the end of May is going to make it a very tight turnaround for myself or anyone else, Middletown reps and senators, to pass something. But and my attitude is that whether or not I agree with regionalization, if the city council asks me to do something, I am obligated to do it. And I think that for voters in Newport that don't want regionalization, their opportunity will come in the ballot box. Their opportunity will come if they vote on the referendum question and when they vote on the members of the city council that put this idea forth. You know, I said that Monday in my constituent meeting. I do work for the city of Newport. I feel strongly about that. One of the things that I'm working on, two things I'm working on for the city. One is, you may have seen in the governor's budget that he wants to add on an additional $5 or $6 to the cruise ship fees. We raised the cruise ship fees to $10 2 years ago. That money does go into the harbor management fund and relieves money for taxpayers and pays for all the hard work that needs to be done in our harbor by our terrific harbor master, Steve Land. And the governor wants to tack another $5 or $6 on that per rod. I think it's 5. So it's, passengers, instead of paying $20 round trip, they'll pay $30 round trip, which is, I think the city council may have passed a resolution on that last night to oppose that move, or at least they were looking at that. And I agree with them 100%. I will work to try to keep that at $20. I don't think that the governor should be tapping into a municipal stream of revenue. It would not take money away from Newport. It would just add more money. And it is a municipal stream of revenue. I'm told that it could affect boats coming in, ships coming in, which some people may like because some people think there's too many boats out in the harbor. But, you know, I am supporting the city on that. And I encourage them to do that. The other thing I'm working on is expanding the green bond to include $5 million for Fort Adams. Fort Adams actually had been promised, the Fort Adams Trust had actually been promised money in the green bond, and it did not materialize. So I co-sponsored the bill to expand the green bond and include the Fort Adams Trust. So at this point in time, those are really the only two Newport-based things that I'm working on, unless the city council comes up with other resolutions for me.
But Lauren, I have a question that kind of spins off the cruise ship fees, and it's about the car tax. When the legislature voted to end the car tax, which was a tax that was collected by the municipalities for the municipalities, it was with a promise that, in fact, that money would be reimbursed to the communities. My question is, has the amount of money ever accelerated beyond the initial amount to take into account any inflationary, any cost increases?
Oh, I don't know the answer to that. I don't think so. I'm not a super expert on that. I know that we have been reimbursing, we have been, you know, compensating the municipalities for the lost car tax revenue. But I don't know. I don't know the latest on that, Frank. We did follow it for a few budgets, so I don't know.
One other area in your survey that I found to be really interesting was also on education, with the question about where Rhode Island should focus higher education investments, and by far, career and technical education programs came out way ahead, and that was interesting. Maybe a sense of where education has gone on a high school level as well. Yeah,
no, I hear you. Now, this says that 144 people responded. If you look a little lower, I think I sent you an earlier set of surveys. See, it says total 144, but it did go up to 157.
Oh, okay. That's still pretty much the same.
Yeah, it didn't really stop that. It didn't really change that.
For your demographic, which you
talked on 24 also, I want to comment on that, but go ahead, Brian.
Just for your demographic, I found the next question 24, very interesting, the results. That safety, pedestrian, and bike came in as one of the top results for the areas that need the most improvement in the district.
I was what I was going to speak to. I was really pleased to see that. I mean, again, I think these people were really spot on a few different places. You know, as a driver in Newport, I'm always concerned about bikers. You know, we have wonderful tourists that come into town and they're riding bikes on narrow streets and they don't know the way around. You know, I actually, quite frankly, bumped into Barry Freeman the other day, Tuesday, and I told her about this. I said, I should tell you this. This is a concern. And she thought that that was an opportunity to really begin doing more education and more work. This is what people want. And she responded very positively to that. You know, I said, gee, Barry, I should tell you, this is what they said. You know, so yeah, I agree with you on that. I think that, you know, part of and I know that she works very hard on education, and she was actually at the State House testifying on a bill around advancing bike safety and bike safety education. So I know she's on it. I have confidence in her. But yeah, I mean, you know, it's a problem of enforcement to some extent. You know, on that question, it did come up in my constituent meeting Monday night. And somebody suggested that maybe the police should be on bikes going around catching other people on bikes. I mean, I don't really know what the solution is here, but yeah, I think that people are aware of bike safety. As drivers, we need to be very careful. We have out-of-towners all over town. So, again, I felt like the folks that responded to this, I thought were really spot on with their answers. Really spot on.
Number one in that category was enforcement of existing laws, not more laws. That was a pretty interesting response.
Yeah, well, I always agree with that. I'm always concerned that we pass laws and they're not enforced and implemented properly.
Not laws if they're not enforced.
Little pet peeve of mine.
Yeah, no, I don't think they're laws unless they're really enforced.
I agree with you. I think that when I draft bills, I've learned over the years, and I'm not perfect. I do the best I can, but I want to always add, how is this going to be implemented? How are we going to know if it's being implemented? As people as law writers and lawmakers, I think it's important that we do that. It's just my value system.
Let me jump to one more thing here, and that's energy. And you had the question, why do you believe energy bills have increased in Rhode Island? Number one reason was lack of competition or limited energy provider choices. And number two was supply costs set by state or regional providers.
They were spot on with that answer. They're spot on. I was concerned that there's a lot of criticism and blaming green energy and renewable energy resources for the problem with utility bills. And, it's really been the supply and the cost that has largely driven up the bills. In fact, I don't know if you guys saw this, but if home fuel oil has gone up about 50 or 60 cents since we bombed Iran. It's gone up that much a gallon. And I know that because I have oil in my house. I have solar also. I have two systems. And the company that I do business with went up about 50 cents a gallon. So it's really supply that's much more vulnerable to fluctuating costs. And I put that question on there so that I could have a conversation with people around, utility bills and what's going on with them. Energy right now is a very controversial subject all over the country and here in Rhode Island. And it will be a big debate in the state budget. We have the expansion of AI, the expansion of data centers, which demand tremendous amount of energy. We have the cutback on renewable energy from the federal government on the investment side. We have rising supply costs. So it's not just one thing that's causing the increase in the increase of bills. And I think we're going to see a lot of work in the legislature this year on it. I'm personally working on it myself.
How do people access the results of this?
Yeah, you asked me that. No one's ever asked me to do that before. So I think
I can link to them in our recap.
Yeah, that'd be great.
I just was going to ask, I don't think there is any, there is nothing here that gives away anybody's identity or.
I don't think so either. That'd be great.
Let's land this plane. How do you use this data? How often do you go back to this data over the years, or how does this influence moving ahead for the rest of this session, next session?
Well, I hear what they're saying. I mean, I feel like if I vote for investment in primary care, I'm following what they want. I feel like if I vote for, there was something else that just popped out of my head. The millionaire's tax, I feel like I'm in line with what they're doing. I generally feel, for the viewers out there, particularly the folks that answer this, that I'm really in line with what these people said, and I felt really good about that. So, of course, anyone can always call me. They can go to my website at laurencarson.com. My phone number's right there. And call me, and we can talk about these issues. But
you asked a really interesting question. I wonder if you go back and track how the answers have differed, similar questions, and how maybe opinions have changed over the course of time.
Yeah, I have them. I have them all. I haven't done that, but I do have them. It's worth asking about. I do save them.
Excellent.
Thanks. Guys, I got to thank you really, because like I said, this was the first year actually people called me up and asked me what the results were. I was shocked, and I thought, how can I communicate? There's a lot of stuff here, right? I figured, I don't even know how I can even write a press release, but this has been very helpful for them. I appreciate it.
Let me see what I can do to take this conversation as well as take the results. And if viewers, readers, listeners give me 24 hours, I can have something turn around on this and try to process it and also raise awareness for the next time. Usually comes out around in January.
January.
Okay.
Well, upon my reelection, we'll see what happens.
Oh, yes, that's right.
Yeah, well,
See what happens.
well, congratulations on this. I think this is terrific. And
Oh, thank you, Frank.
in reaching out, and to everybody who answered this, also congratulations for having a voice. You've got to have a voice, and this is a great way to do that as well. And my only hope is that I hope you share that with some of the other people in the legislature, so they're at least seeing how people are thinking, and maybe they will replicate what you're doing here with their own constituents.
Thank you both. Thank you both very much. I really appreciate it a lot. Thank you for doing this. I mean it.
Of course. All
Have a
right.
good day.
All right. Representative Lauren Carson joins us, and always a good time to chat with her and catch up. It's a very enlightening and very detailed survey and results. I know she's been doing this several years, and this is the first time that I've really dove into the results, and there are some surprises in there. So,
And very in depth. I mean, things I wouldn't even have thought of clearly, but she's in tune with her constituents and with the issues in Newport, and gives her a lot of guidance on where to go, how she should vote.
yeah. And we got 34 questions or so. So, yeah, it's good. All right, Mr. Prosnitz. Well, we'll turn something around here, and I appreciate you joining us, and we'll do it again soon.
Thank you, Ryan.
All right, so that is Frank Prosnitz. We want to thank Representative Lauren Carson, District 75, Newport, for joining us to talk to us about her constituent survey. Like I said, give me 24 hours or so to try to see how I could take these 157 responses, as well as 34 questions, as well as this interview, and turn it into a nice package so you can see what your fellow neighbors think about the state of Newport, state of the district. So we'll do that soon. If you missed any portion of this conversation, want to watch it again, share it, read, all available on whatsupnuke.com. Thanks for watching.